Good morning, friends. Thanks for being here this morning. This is Journey Home Meditation, and I am Michael, and you are listening to the Morning Sit. If this is your first time here, thanks for coming today. And if this is not your first time here, get out. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for coming. Ho, 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 ho. Such a dad. Well, yesterday we talked a little bit. When I say we, as if this is an actual dialogue. I feel like it's a dialogue, strangely, but I do understand that I am sitting in this room generally alone. But this morning I'm actually joined by the phantasm of my teenage son sitting on the couch. You can kind of hear him in the background. But I say we discuss, and it's always interesting. There's that word. It's always a point of interest for me when the royal terms are used, the we, the us, because I get torn on, there's a thread of thought that when we speak, we should be speaking from a place of total responsibility and self-ownership, right? I feel, in my experience, things like this. I understand that. But there's this other notion of recognition that there is a greater dialogue that's occurring. And it's not just like the one inside of our heads. There's multiple conversations that we have inside of our heads with multiple aspects of ourselves every day. But I think that there, in many ways, when I'm doing these little rants in the mornings, I feel as if I'm responding to cultural narrative, right? There's a cultural narrative that's at play. It's kind of a back and forth. And I started doing these contemplations on these morning meditations because I felt like it was contextual, right? It gave some context to the practices that I'm partaking in. These practices are not just some external detached force that comes in like colonizing style and embeds themselves into my day. These spring out of a lot of the ways in which I interact with the world. And so therefore I feel like the practices are part of the conversation as well. And I just have this feeling that I want to provide context, if only for myself, but I feel like there is a universality when any time that we can sit and share with one another our confusing experience navigating this really mucky and messy world. Maybe I want to sit with that for just a second, because even that, well, yeah, I'm just going to sit with that. So all that being said, I am going to start opening up this format for actual discussions with other people coming in. I think I have the technology now to be able to do this. So I'm going to start bringing on other voices at least once a week and maybe more to share in the conversation, so that when I say this morning we discussed, it won't sound obtuse or confusing, because generally it's the we is myself responding to the cultural narrative, which in my mind, is a discussion because uh, when I leave this practice in the mornings, it comes with me through my day, right? And I've heard from many folks who also sit and listen in, and they say that they also will take some of these notions and they'll implement them through their day to see what the effect is, right? Um, so it is a a back and forth with something beyond just my mind. I don't know. I don't. I don't know how else to put that. But I had a fun morning this morning, so I think I'm in a bit of a fun mood. I got away with like a crime of physics this morning. Um, so I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning. Uh, I had to. I've got 45-year-old things happening. I have to use the restroom, get a glass of water, the whole deal. And I come back and I look at the time, and it was around 3:45. I thought, okay, I've got another hour and a half or two to sleep. So I lay back down, and then I wake up in this frenzy, like, oh no, I must have turned my alarm off when I woke up this morning. I've overslept, and I really had this feeling that I was missing the day or something. That I was going to be rushing, and I grabbed the phone and look at the time, and it was only 5 a.m. So I had another, half an hour or so before my alarm was going to go off, and I felt like I had this overwhelming feeling of joy and giddiness, like I just got away with something, like I just stole time from the gods. you know that's like that feeling when you're shopping at Walmart and you get the cart out to the car and you're unpacking it and you realize, oh, I didn't actually scan this 24 pack of ramen noodles that was on the bottom of the cart. Oh, I got away with it. Yeah. uh, the feeling that I stole time. um, so that's put me in a a fun interaction with my own mind today. So if you ever steal time, I'd love to hear about it. Let us know. But I wanted to continue the thread from yesterday, just for a little bit. Yesterday, I talked about how to identify my needs, right? How I'm starting to recognize, at the probably over halfway point of my life, in this go round, that a lot of my habits, a lot of the habitual behaviors and habitual beliefs and thoughts, and desires are actually a maladjusted way of trying to meet needs that I don't recognize, right? And the metaphor, the story that I used was talking about, when you feel hungry and you sit and eat a whole bag of chips, like you're not actually hungry as far as nutrients go because there's no nutrients in those chips. Maybe your blood sugar's low, whatever. Sure, we can have all those. Well, what if? But for the purpose of the story, uh, what I'm feeling inside is not a hunger for food. It's not a need for nutrients. It's something else. There is a hunger there. There is a hunger for something that in my life I have utilized food to fill that void, right? To fill that hole. And uh, and this happens with lots of things, not just with a bag of chips. We try to meet our needs in all of these usually unhealthy ways, and I say usually unhealthy because when we don't know what our needs are and we're trying to meet them, we don't know where to go. We don't know where to look, and so that ends up generally bringing on levels of anxiety, stress, fear, paranoia, insecurity, all these things that come up. And so we behave in these sometimes volatile ways, sometimes destructive ways, in the people to the people in our lives, to our own bodies, because we could not recognize our own need. And I think that a lot of this comes from a culture that shames the expression of need. Right? We've been raised that when somebody expresses a need, it's somehow an embarrassment or a shameful act, you know. Um, and we have this disposition of despise for the beggar, for the person who is standing out, holding a sign, expressing what they need. We scoff at that, culturally speaking. We take pity on people. And pity is a way that we obfuscate our own empathy, right? Pity is a way that we don't feel anything, but we want to express that we are somehow affected by this. And this is something that happens in our culture a lot. Um, you know, it happens in the voting booths. It happens in the economic voting. It happens all the time. We express pity for those people and their plight, but we sure know that we're not going to be doing anything to relate our lives to theirs. You know, we even have sayings like, "Oh, by the grace of God go we." You know, this notion that it's only by the grace of God that I'm not as miserable as this schmuck. you know, uh, and that's not exactly where that phrase comes from. You know, that's not the. I don't believe that's the intention or even the effect of that phrase. If we were to really embody what it's saying, because if we're believing that by the grace of God go I, by the grace of God go we would know that that's true always for everyone at any moment. And the grace of God in this moment is possibly to allow you to connect to that person who's clearly expressing a need. Right? This is the easy peasy stuff. This is the cheat code. When someone is expressing clearly what their need is, you have a great opportunity to meet a need. It's not meeting a need for someone else, it's meeting a need. Meeting a need is being of service. That fulfills you as well, right? Because we are a single organism. You know, this earth is a single organism. It's all functioning in a closed loop system. And so when we meet needs, we're having our needs met. Caveat: when we are helping, we are oftentimes withholding the part of ourselves that connects to the thing that we're doing. So we're giving and giving and giving what we think is needed. Sometimes it is, but we're not actually meeting the needs because we're not connecting. And this is not to shame people who just want to help, but this is, I want to be clear here that helping and being of service are two very different things. When we are of service, we understand that serving is being served, right? When we're helping, we think that I am giving to this person, you know, from my personal wealth and the control of the resources that I dole out what is needed. But when we're being of service, we're doing what we can together. We're there together. There's very little differentiation between the one serving the food and the one being served. And in a lot of cultural understandings, the one serving the food is actually the one being served because this is an opportunity to serve the higher purpose. So you're actually being served by being able to serve. I love that concept. And I think that this culture here in the dominant culture of the West, or whatever, however I want to phrase my relationship to our society, could really benefit from incorporating that idea, that way of being. But how do we do this when not only do we have a difficult time recognizing our own needs, but we have a very difficult time recognizing the needs in others? And there's sometimes we have this way of behaving that we really start to see being a helper is meeting the needs of others. And so we run ourselves ragged trying to help everybody that we can. And we give and we give, and we have a difficult time even being with the people in our own lives because we are so dedicated to helping solve the problem. But yet we aren't actually able to see where the needs are. And the problem with this is when you think that what is needed is one thing and it's not, you're going to think that you don't have what it takes to meet someone's needs, right? You're going to think that you just don't have what it takes. You may see someone who is without a home and you think, well, I don't have a home to give them, so I can't give them what they need. But you don't know that maybe just sitting with someone and sharing a breakfast, sharing a cup of coffee, having a conversation, that may be what that person needs that day to help them to refuel, to start to meet some of their own needs to get through that morning. There's upward trajectories as well as downward. And the truth is, in that moment, when you're seeing someone and taking pity and feeling a sense of scarcity that you can't help them, you're expressing a need. You're expressing a need to be able to connect on a human level with another person. So that's one way we can start to figure out how to meet the needs, is to understand that we are all expressing this need to connect. But then another thing that came up for me this morning, I was actually reading some Thich Nhat Hanh, one of my favorite teachers, and this line came up and it said, when another person makes you suffer, it is because he suffers deeply within himself and his suffering is spilling over. He does not need punishment, he needs help. That is the message he is sending. He does not need punishment, he needs help. And we can take the gender out of this. I have no problem editing Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching, making it gender neutral. It doesn't matter. Gender is non-consequential in this case. When somebody is being harmful to others and to themselves, there is an expression of need there. It doesn't justify causing harm. It doesn't. It doesn't justify their actions of hurting people, because there is no justification for harming people. This is key. There's no justification for that. So why do we feel justified in harming someone who's caused harm? This is where it gets really difficult, right? Because there is instilled within many of us, many of us, this bloodlust for revenge, this fear of connection leads to punishment. I don't want to be connected to the bad guy. I don't want to be lumped into the bad guy. Don't include me into the bad guy category. I'm not the boogeyman. I'm not like him. I'm not like her. I'm not like them. And this is being expressed in our culture right now as exceptionalism, American exceptionalism, liberal exceptionalism, white fragility is a word that comes up a lot. Male fragility. I don't actually like the terms fragility when it comes to that, because that implies a weakness instead of a failure to connect, right? Because fragility is not a punishable offense either, right? When something is fragile, it just means you have to handle it a little differently. And this isn't to say that we have to handle, white supremacy differently or handle the patriarchy differently. That's why I don't like the use of the term fragility when it comes to these, because this is not what's being spoken here. We need to come and meet all of these feelings of inequity and these feelings of insecurity with a steadfast and strong love. But understanding that the need to punish someone, to other someone, to refuse to see the reasonings and the impetus behind someone's actions as part of a cultural outcrop, is the need to dissociate from that part of ourselves. And that needs to be met with love very strongly. When we have a need to dissociate from ourselves, that is a level of pain and suffering that I wish I could say is unimaginable, but it's not, because it's ubiquitous. The need to dissociate even from my own body, from my own desires, from my own thoughts, from my own beliefs, is something that many people in our culture suffer with daily. And the outcome of that is this feeling that we are all separate. And when you start to see us as separate, you start to see other people as failures instead of understanding that it's just expressions of need. And if I'm feeling like others are failures, then that is an expression of my own failure to connect and my belief that I cannot meet the needs that I have or that another has. And the truth is, there is a deep truth here, a glaring truth, that this world is made to meet all of the needs of everything in this world. Period. Period. There's enough food to feed everyone. There's enough housing to house everyone. There's enough water for everyone to drink. There's enough air for everyone to breathe. There's enough space for everyone to be. It's only when we start to create boundaries, borders, and lines between who I am and who you are that we start to create scarcity. And that scarcity means the lack of the ability to meet a need. So this is why this is coming up for me. There's a strong connection here of the spiritual work of learning how to meet our needs and the physical work in our material world of working towards meeting the needs of everyone. And the longer we try to separate those conditions, the spiritual condition and the physical material condition, the more we're going to have genocides, the more we're going to have border walls and shootings, and we're going to have climate change refugees dying by the hundreds in boats trying to live because we don't understand how to see our need. And it's not political, and it's not complicated. It's it's not a thing with a lot of gray area. And it's really simple. See, it's people say, well, it's not just like as simple as flipping a switch, and I think it is. I think it is that easy. The problem is the switch is on a wall in a dark room and we don't know how to find it. We don't know how to navigate our way to find that switch to flip, but the switch is really easy. The switch is just recognizing I am no greater or no less than any other being. My needs and their needs are the same. That's the understanding. We all have the same needs. Those who aren't having their needs met behave in ways that are detrimental. right? Because having your needs unmet is detrimental. So it's just navigating our way in that darkened room to find where the switch is, to flip that switch. And that's where these practices come in play. How do we navigate our way into a darkened room? Well, the practice then is going to be to darken our room and begin to search in an internal space where my need might be in this moment. What might be informing my body, what might be informing my mind, my thoughts, what might be informing my language and my behavior and my beliefs. And we go inside, we get inside and we find that space. So let's come together this morning just for a few minutes. If you're listening on any of our video platforms of YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, you can feel free to use the chat feature. Share some of your experience. Maybe you disagree. That's fine. I would love to hear more perspectives on this because the conversation right now is happening mostly in here. But this is just a way that I've been seeing how these practices affect me. And I can say for myself that being able to sit each day and take a bit of time to shine the light onto my internal landscape and see those places where I've been hiding, see those little hiding places that I've built behind walls of trauma or boundaries of fear or barriers of hatred and dissociation, those places I've built inside. I see those hiding places and then I can, it's like a game of hide and seek. I can say, found you, come on out. These little parts of me get to come out of hiding. And then I get to love them. It's a constant meeting of myself. And it truly is the first time in my life that I'm learning how to be loved, because I'm learning how to love those little pieces of me that hides behind those walls, which makes those pieces of me lovable. So when someone tells me they love me, I can feel them loving more of me because there's less of me that's hiding from them. I hope that makes sense. I hope it does. Well, let's take a moment to shine the light inside. You can be seated as I am on the seat with your feet flat to the floor, or perhaps you have your legs in any number of crossed positions or lying flat on your back. Maybe you're even standing or taking a walk. What you're doing is not as important as that you're doing it, that you're fully present in your body in this moment. If you have the ability to close your eyes and really give this time just to yourself, do that. That's being of service. Taking this moment to feel yourself breathe and to explore your own hiding places is a gift to the world. It really is. It's going to help me be able to love more of you and you to be able to love more of me. So take this time. Make this a devotional act of breathing. Breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. And breathing out entirely. Breathing in. And breathing out. Find your rhythm and feel all of the subtle feelings that want to come up. I'm going to bring the chanting down just a bit so that every part of you can be present. Listen to the sound of your own breath. And fall into love with everything you find. Fall into love with everything you find. Breathing in and breathing out. If you can keep your focus on the breath and bring your awareness into the self, you'll find a depth that you never thought possible. And there's no end to it because there's no beginning. And as you breathe in, you're filling yourself with a willingness to be loved. As you search for all of those hiding places inside of yourself, you are asking to be loved, to meet the need that you have to be loved. That's vulnerable, and maybe that's the cost of admission. But this is how we are taught to love. Maybe it's something you weren't shown. I don't know that I was taught this explicitly, but it's something I've gathered from many teachers over much time. And I'm so grateful to be able to come here and share where I'm at in this journey. And I'm no further along or further behind than anyone else. It's just a tool at our disposal, so I'm using it. A way to connect in a disconnected world. So I thank you for helping me to connect. And I love each of you. And it's absolutely nothing personal. Maybe today's mantra can be, teach me how to love you. Teach me how to love you. Teach me how to love you. So if you want to take anything with you through your day, and when you find yourself feeling disconnected, stressed, isolated, alone, suffering in any way, just breathe in, teach me how to love you. And breathe out, I am falling in love. Teach me how to love you. Falling into love. Thanks, everyone. You can reach out, journeyhomemeditation@gmail.com. My name is Michael. Audio.